Everyone could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Their eyes were filled with envy. Even Yuda and Wen Hong were stunned, thinking to themselves that this Chu Hen was too low-key. With the earth and Kuan token, what were a few 100,000 upper-grade primordial crystal stones? This was definitely a symbol of status. At this moment, the person with the most interesting expression was none other than Old Man Lu. Looking at the earth and Kuan token in front of him, he really wanted to slap himself hard. Originally, he wanted to use Zhen Yi's identity to suppress Yuda. Just when he was secretly pleased, Chu Hen directly took out a gold and Kuan token, instantly pushing Old Man Lu to the heart of the struggle. As everyone knew, the owner of the gold and Kuan token could unconditionally enjoy any resources from the large chambers of commerce and guilds in the Sacred Star Dynasty, elixirs, weapons, primordial crystal stones, etc. All expenses would be paid by the imperial family, of course. The annual upper limit of 1 million upper-grade primordial crystal stones was secondary. The most important point was the priority to enjoy those resources. In other words, no matter what it was, Chu Hen would have the priority to obtain it. As for the others, they would have to wait until after him. What's wrong? Uncle Lu? Can you help me settle the bill first? Chu Hen faintly smiled. His gentle smile was very polite. However, Old Man Lu wanted to cry but had no tears because he really only had these 3 rhinoceros stone crystals. Whether it was the imperial family or Zhen Danxian, he couldn't afford to offend them. That? Me? Zhen Yi's eyes flashed with some surprise, and then she said indifferently, "It's just a gold and Kuan token, why do you have to pretend? You're just using the prestige of the imperial family to show off." If it was someone else who said this, it would definitely be seen as treason and rebellious. However, it was Zhen Yi, so no one present dared to criticize her. However, Chu Hen smiled and said indifferently, "I'm not using the prestige of the imperial family. I just want to buy some things. On the contrary, it's some people who bully others with no sense of propriety." "Humph, Chu Hen, how dare you teach Miss Zhen Yi a lesson? Who do you think you are?" One of Zhen Yi's pursuers stepped forward and scolded Chu Hen while pointing at him. "I was wondering who it was. It turns out to be the famous double-list champion." Zhen Yi seemed to have realized something, but her face was still full of arrogance. Seeing this situation, the surrounding people couldn't help but stand aside and watch the show. One was the recently popular double-list champion, and the other was the famous first genius tattooist in the capital. Who would gain the upper hand in the collision between these two people? Behind Zhen Yi was the only spiritual tattooist in the Saint Star Dynasty, Zhen Danxian. And Chu Hen also had the gold and earth token of the imperial family. Although the imperial family was the most powerful in the dynasty, Chu Hen was not a real member of the imperial family. Moreover, Zhen Danxian had a high status. In general, their momentum was evenly matched. "Miss Zhen Yi, I don't want to waste time with you here. Even if I don't take out the gold and earth token today, you should know the order of arrival, right? If you really need the rhinoceros crystal, I can give you one." Chu Hen's words were indeed reasonable. Yuda, Wen Hong and others also nodded secretly. Chu Hen not only gave the opponent a way out, but also maintained his dignity. This approach was very reasonable. However, Zhen Yi didn't intend to compromise. "Humph, it's not your turn to teach me a lesson. Don't think you're great just because you accidentally won the double-list champion. You're not qualified to tell me what to do." Zhen Yi was also a proud girl who had been dazzled since she was a child. Moreover, everyone in the capital knew that Zhen Danxian spoiled her very much, almost treating her as his own daughter. With such a superior background, she didn't need to listen to Chu Hen's preaching here. "Humph," Chu Hen sneered, "it seems that Miss Zhen Yi thinks my concession is cowardice." "Humph, isn't it? Hee, I have to say, Miss Zhen Yi, you're really nothing in front of me. If we fight, you, Miss Zhen Yi, can't even take one move from me. Can't even take one move from me." Buzz. An invisible domineering aura unconsciously flowed from Chu Hen's body, and everyone present couldn't help but change their expressions. Good Lord! As expected of Chu Hen, he was really bold. When it was quiet, he didn't want to say a word. Once he was angered, he would definitely trample on him to death. How could the double-list champion be an undeserved reputation? You! Zhen Yi's face turned pale, and she couldn't help but feel annoyed. Chapter 325. Yellow Springs Swamp Technique. Close to 100 runes fused into the air, following which an extremely astonishing and majestic aura erupted from a gorgeous spell formation. In the next instant, the ground under Chu Hen's feet became extremely soft. The sturdy marble immediately twisted, and like a quagmire, it dragged Chu Hen's legs down. What a shocking speed! The surrounding inscription masters were all amazed. Zhen Yi was indeed a genius inscription master who had stayed in the otherworldly spirit sect for 2 years. The speed at which she was setting up the inscription formation even made some of the inscription masters who had been in the inscription formation for 20 to 30 years feel ashamed. This Chu Hen has really kicked an iron plate today. He asked for it. He can't blame anyone else. Tomorrow, the news of the double-ranking champion, working like a slave for Miss Zhen Yi, will spread throughout the capital. That will definitely be explosive. Ha 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 ha. A few of Zhen Yi's pursuers at the side talked about Chu Hen without restraint. Yuda and Wenhong could not help but worry for Chu Hen. If Chu Hen was facing someone else, they could still believe that Chu Hen would be able to handle it. However, his opponent was Zhen Yi, and the two of them had no confidence at all. In just a blink of an eye, Chu Hen's knees had sunk in. However, there was no panic on the handsome young man's face. A powerful Reiki energy was released, and Chu Hen immediately shot out dozens of incomparably beautiful runes that merged into the surrounding ground. The mysterious runes were like raindrops that dripped into the water, disappearing without a trace. However, immediately after, circles of intense energy rippled in the air like water ripples, and the energy of dozens of runes instantly resonated. Crystal consolidation formation. Gotcha! Accompanied by a shocking power, the quagmire beneath Chu Hen quickly stiffened into rocks, and it stopped moving down. However, at this moment, Zhen Yi once again threw out dozens of runes. The bright runes quickly arranged themselves, forming a tattoo formation that was more than 10 meters wide. And Chu Hen was at the center of the array. Fire Spirit Array. Zhen Yi made a hand sign and shouted coldly. Boom! In an instant, a scarlet pillar of fire with a diameter of more than 10 meters suddenly soared into the sky. The incomparably scorching wave of air was like a volcano that had suddenly erupted. The surrounding crowd was shaken by the mighty aftershock, causing them to continuously retreat. The terrifying pillar of fire rose to the sky and attacked the ceiling. He saw that the roof of the ceiling had melted. Everyone's expression changed again and again. The rune power that Zhen Yi displayed was truly terrifying. Of course, the people present did not need to worry that the impact of the power caused by the fight between the two people would destroy the hall. Even the slightest movement would cause excruciating pain. What was worse was that the threads contained poison. Under everyone's fearful gaze, Chu Hen's skin turned greenish-black at a speed visible to the naked eye. His body trembled violently. Chu Hen's legs bent and he almost knelt on the ground. The outcome was decided. Looking at the scene in front of them, no one had the slightest doubt in their hearts. As expected of Miss Zhen Yi, she easily dealt with that arrogant guy. He thinks he's invincible in every field just because he won the double role champion. How foolish! When we wake up tomorrow, the whole city will be filled with news of the double-role champion working like a slave for Miss Zhen Yi. Ha 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 ha! A few of Zhen Yi's pursuers laughed wantonly. Sigh. Yuda sighed helplessly. He thought that with Chu Hen's personality, he would not be so impulsive. He did not expect this to be the result. It seemed that he had overestimated Chu Hen. Buzz buzz, the multicolored butterflies that filled the sky gathered behind Chu Hen, who was unable to move, and quickly revealed Zhen Yi's original appearance. You're really overestimating yourself with this little ability of yours. Zhen Yi held a dagger condensed from runes in her hand and pointed it at the back of Chu Hen's neck. From today onwards, you're this young Mrs. Servant. You have to follow me wherever I go, follow my lead, and obey my orders. Hee, is that so? Do I have to follow you when you're taking a bath? A frivolous laugh came out of Chu Hen's mouth. Everyone was shocked. What was going on? Then, they saw that Chu Hen had already formed a seal with both of his hands. His bright eyes revealed a playful smile. There was not a trace of pain on his face. Miss Zhen Yi, everything in front of me is an illusion. Do you really think I've been fooled? Illusion break. Break. In the next moment, an extremely powerful aura exploded from Chu Hen's body. Yuda and Wenhong's eyes instantly lit up. Then, a bright and dazzling golden light burst out like the radiance of the sun. An extremely strong wind raged and a huge airflow swept in all directions. The eyes of the surrounding onlookers shrunk to the size of a needle. Buzz, the space trembled slightly. Everyone only saw a white light flash before their eyes. Then, the initial scene appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Chu Hen and Zhen Yi maintained the scene at the beginning. There was a distance of more than 10 meters between them. Chu Hen's body did not show any signs of being pierced by the thin silk, nor was his body corroded by the poison. What? Was that an illusion all along? Miss Zhen Yi is really amazing. Even us onlookers were trapped in it. Apart from a few high-level runemasters who could still maintain their composure, most of the others were shocked. The illusion array that Zhen Yi had set up was not only targeted at Chu Hen, but also confused everyone outside. You go away, don't talk nonsense here. Although Yuda looked energetic, if one looked closely, one could still see the red veins in his eyes. Chu Hen's heart was filled with gratitude, but he also felt somewhat apologetic. Brother Yu, I don't know what to say. It's okay. This is the first time Brother Chu Hen has asked me to do something, how can I be negligent? As they spoke, a middle-aged man in a silk robe walked over. Brother Chu Hen, let me introduce you. This is Zhu Tong, my good friend. Yuda pointed at the middle-aged man with Chu Hen. This man had thick eyebrows, big eyes, a square face and a high nose. He exuded a steady aura, giving off a very reliable feeling. Chu Hen smiled and greeted politely. I am Chu Hen, nice to meet Brother Zhu Tong. Brother Chu Hen, you are too polite. I have seen your performance in the Heaven List tournament. To be honest, if I didn't hear that you are repairing your spiritual equipment, I wouldn't even bother with you, Zhu Tong said. Chu Hen was slightly surprised. On the side, Yuda explained, Brother Chu Hen, in order to repair the illusionary spirit bell's power to the greatest extent, I've invited 3 other good friends to help me. I intend to set up the Big Dipper rune. Big Dipper rune? Chu Hen raised his eyebrows, a look of joy on his face. Chu Hen knew about the so-called Celestial Dipper rune. It was an extremely high-level rune technique, and its use was to allow the weapon spirit and the weapon body to achieve a more perfect compatibility. In the case of a new spiritual equipment like the illusionary spirit bell, compatibility was very important. The higher the compatibility, the more power the spiritual equipment could recover. On the other hand, the weaker the compatibility, the power of the repaired illusionary spirit bell would be far weaker than before. Initially, Yuda wanted to use the Earth Star rune to help Chuhen repair the illusionary spirit bell. If it was successful, the illusionary spirit bell could recover at least 70% of its power. But if he used the Heaven Star rune, it could only recover 90%. However, the two types of runes were not on the same level. With Yuda's attainments as a rank 8 spiritual rune master, he could complete the Earth Star rune by himself. But if it was the Heaven Star rune, he would need at least 4 high-level spiritual rune masters, and at least 2 rank 8 spiritual runes. Brother Yu, thank you, Chuhen said gratefully. He did not want to owe Yuda a favor, but in the end, he still did. Yuda patted his shoulder and said, I told you not to stand on ceremony with me. Slowly, more and more spiritual rune masters arrived at the inner courtyard. To many of the beginner and intermediate spiritual rune masters, it was a rare sight to see Yuda, Zhu Tong and a few other high-level spiritual rune masters setting up the Heaven Star rune together. It would be beneficial if he could observe from the sidelines. And just at this moment, a rather familiar and beautiful figure appeared in Chuhen's line of sight. With an arrogant face, he glanced at Chuhen with some disdain. Then, he sat down on a wide chair at the side of the long corridor in the inner courtyard. This person was none other than Zhenyi, who had lost to Chuhen the other day. I heard that the duel that night was very exciting. It's a pity that I wasn't there. Zhu Tong smiled. Chuhen sniffled and shook his head. He did not say much. Time passed. Almost half of the spiritual rune masters from the guild had arrived. However, the other 2 spiritual rune masters that Yuda had mentioned were still not here. That's strange. Why aren't Zhu Ko and Yelin here yet? Zhu Tong frowned as he looked towards the entrance of the courtyard. Let's wait and see. They must have been delayed. Wen Hong said. Yuda squinted his eyes, and a hint of gloominess could be seen between his brows. In the blink of an eye, another 15 minutes had passed. The crowd was getting impatient, but Yuda and the other 2 spiritual rune masters were still nowhere to be seen. What's going on? I'll go look for them, Zhu Tong said. There's no need. Yuda let out a long sigh of relief, and a profound look appeared in his eyes. They won't be coming. What? The few of them were shocked, but they quickly understood what was going on. They instinctively looked towards Zhenyi, who was sitting on a chair at the side. Zhenyi's expression was indifferent as she drank a cup of hot tea as if nothing had happened. She looked like she was watching a drama unfold. These 2 fellas don't care about our friendship at all. Zhu Tong was wrong about them. Zhu Tong cursed angrily. I don't blame them. Yuda shook his head. After all, no spiritual rune master in the capital dared to offend Jin Danxian. It was understandable that the 2 of them did not dare to come. Who would have thought that this combination would actually be able to complete such a powerful talisman technique like the Heavenly Energy Tool rune? Because of this, Chu Hen's fame would once again rise to another level. After communicating with Yu De, Zhu Tong, and Wen Hong, Chu Hen took the illusionary spirit bell and left the guild. According to the guild's price, Chu Hen needed to pay Yu De around 100,000 high-grade origin crystal stones as compensation for repairing the illusionary spirit bell. Of course, it could be imagined that Yu De wouldn't accept Chu Hen's origin crystal stones and directly refused. Because of the contact during these past few days, the relationship between Chu Hen, Yu De, and Wen Hong had become much closer. Putting aside whether Yu Da's original objective was to rope Chu Hen in, just based on Chu Hen's wholehearted help in repairing the illusionary spirit bell, it was sufficient to show that Chu Hen was a person worth befriending. After leaving the guild, Chu Hen directly returned to Tensei Prefecture. Chu Hen's mood was still extremely good, as the repair of the illusionary spirit bell had allowed him to have another trump card. A treasure ranked in the top 50 of the spirit weapon rankings was absolutely not an ordinary treasure. Today was the day that instructor Shilan was teaching. After returning to the academy, Chu Hen went straight to the Maple Forest stake. The enrollment had already begun, and a portion of the new students had already been arranged to enter the academy. The injection of these new blood filled Tensei Prefecture with a vigorous vitality. As the champion of the double role battle, Chu Hen was now the focus of attention wherever he went. Along the way, there was no lack of admiring gazes and excited exclamations. After a moment, Chu Hen arrived at the Maple Forest stake. The morning sun shone warmly on his body, and the familiar environment slowly appeared in Chu Hen's sight. Thinking about what new content instructor Shilan would teach today, Chu Hen couldn't help but quicken his pace. Soon, Chu Hen saw Li Hui, Zhou Lu, He Qingyuan, and the other students from Shilan's team. However, to his surprise, the atmosphere today seemed a little strange. Chapter 333. What's wrong with you guys? When Chu Hen arrived at the Maple Forest stumps, he saw Li Hui, Zhou Lu, He Qingyuan, and the rest of the students from Shilan's team looking lifeless. He couldn't help but reveal a confused expression. Lu Yu's eyes were red, as though she had just cried. "Where's Mentor Shilan?" Chu Hen asked. "Senior brother Chu Hen, Mentor Shilan, she left the academy." Li Hui sobbed, his voice filled with sadness and sorrow. "What?" Chu Hen's eyes widened and he was greatly shocked. "Teacher left? Where did she go?" "Back to where she came from." Ji Xian, who had a gloomy expression, walked over and threw a letter to Chu Hen. "This is what Mentor left for you." Ta! Chu Hen unhesitatingly grabbed the letter in his hand and opened it with a bit of excitement. Then, a few lines of beautiful and lively words appeared in front of his eyes. "Chu Hen, forgive Mentor for leaving without saying goodbye. I don't belong here. 5 years ago, my younger brother, whom I depended on since young, died in an accident. I was disheartened and wandered here just to forget the pain of the past. You have too much of him in you. Many times when I was with you, I felt that Shichen was standing beside me. In the beginning, I did treat you as him. But later on, I understood that you will never be Shichen. You are only Chu Hen. I'm glad to have spent more than a year with you. It's also because of you that I walked out of the shadow of Shichen's departure. It's time for me to return to where I came from. We will definitely meet again in the future. Mentor has always believed that this small sacred star empire won't be able to trap you. Finally, I wish you the rock will soar with the wind and soar for 90,000 miles. Shilan wrote it personally. Looking at the last 4 words, Shilan wrote it personally. Chu Hen's arm trembled and he clutched the letter tightly in his hand. When did Mentor leave? This morning, Ji Xian replied coldly. Xiao. His voice hadn't finished resounding in the air when a violet light flashed before everyone's eyes along with an extremely rapid gust of wind. In the next instant, Chu Hen had already transformed into a wisp of a shadow and vanished into the horizon. In the sky above the imperial capital, Chu Hen's speed was as fast as lightning, like a meteor chasing after the moon. The power of the purple shadow wings was unleashed to the extreme. The resplendent light wings flickered with a crystalline luster. Chu Hen flew at full speed, heading out of the city. Who dares to fly in the capital? When they arrived at the city gate, the guards on the city wall shouted angrily and drew their bows. The corners of Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, but he paid no attention to them. Like a flowing light shuttle that had been traveling for thousands of years, he directly flew over everyone's heads. Before the guards on the city wall could fire their arrows, a chaotic gust of wind blew past, and Chu Hen left them looking up at his back. Everyone couldn't help but rub their heads and look at each other. It seems to be Chu Hen? What should we do? Should we report this to the chief? What report? Don't you know that the Prince Regent went to take a walk with Chu Hen that night? Just guard your city gate obediently. Just turn a blind eye to it. The news that Chu Hen and Huang Fuqing were on good terms had already spread throughout the city a few days ago. There were even people who personally saw the two of them strolling by the lake in the center of the city in the evening. With Huang Fuqing's status and identity, not to mention Chu Hen flying above the capital, even if he were to randomly fly in the palace, the guards would probably turn a blind eye. After leaving the imperial capital, Chu Hen didn't stop for even a moment. His clothes fluttered in the rapid gust of wind. A faint sadness surged in Chu Hen's increasingly profound eyes. Over the past year, every bit of kindness that Xilan had shown him surged in his heart. Chu Hen suddenly recalled the conversation he had with Xilan in the maple forest the day before the Six-Nation Heaven List tournament. The red maple leaves were like butterflies in the wind, and Xilan sat under the maple tree like an otherworldly fairy. At that time, Xilan seemed a little unusual. Chu Hen especially remembered that Xilan said something very seriously to him at that time. "Promise me that you will come back safely." Behind that sincere gentleness, there was a trace of sadness of impending parting. Now it seemed that Xilan had already planned to leave at that time. However, since the Heaven List tournament was imminent, she did not want Chu Hen to be distracted. At the same time, she was also waiting for Chu Hen to fulfill his promise to come back safely. That was why she had delayed her return until now. Just like when Chu Hen was recuperating after the tournament, every time Xilan came to visit him, she would bring a pure white magnolia. She would bring the new magnolia and take the old magnolia away. Perhaps it was a hint. Although Chu Hen had many opportunities to notice Xilan's unusual behavior, he did not think too much about it. Now that Xilan had suddenly left, Chu Hen was taken by surprise. "Teacher, please let me personally say goodbye to you." Chu Hen's eyes flashed with a resolute light. He couldn't help but increase his speed once again. 4 hours passed in a row, and Chu Hen flew several hundred kilometers at high speed. Although he was only flying close to the ground and jumping at a low altitude, Chu Hen's true essence was being consumed at an extremely rapid speed. Chu Hen clenched his teeth, enduring his increasingly weak physical strength, and still stubbornly chased after her. If he could not say goodbye to Xilan, Chu Hen would be unworthy of her kindness. However, this seemed to be destined to become a great regret for Chu Hen. Bam! Chu Hen, who had been madly running for several hundred kilometers, was unable to circulate a mouthful of inner qi due to his lack of physical strength. He staggered and directly fell down. He rolled a few times on the ground and fell with his face covered in dirt. Because of the inscription of the heavenly energy rune on the illusionary spirit bell, Chu Hen had consumed a lot of his physical strength. Even if he had consumed the origin recovery pill, the pill was only a pill after all. It could not continuously replenish the body. And Chu Hen had madly run for so long without stopping. It was enough to exhaust his true essence. Chu Hen sat up from the ground with great difficulty. His chest rose and fell violently as he panted heavily. His originally pale face was now completely devoid of blood. Looking at the lush and endless winding mountains and rivers, Chu Hen frowned. He raised his right fist and fiercely smashed it onto a rock behind him. Bam! A heavy muffled sound exploded, and densely packed cracks spread out on the rock. At the same time, red blood flowed out from between Chu Hen's fingers. In this punch, Chu Hen did not use the slightest bit of inner strength or true essence. It was purely a subconscious action in a fit of pique. Suddenly, a gentle wind blew through the forest, lifting up the fallen leaves on the ground. "You can't be so childish." A delicate and mellow voice entered Chu Hen's ears. Chu Hen was startled and hurriedly raised his head. He saw that a dozen meters in front of him, a tall and slender figure suddenly appeared in his line of sight. This was a beautiful woman with long purple hair. She had an absolutely beautiful appearance and an elegant and otherworldly temperament. She was beautiful and moving. "Mentor." Chu Hen's eyes lit up, and his face revealed a deep surprise. Shilan looked at him, shook her head lightly, and sighed. Then, she slowly walked towards Chu Hen, and then knelt beside him. Her fair and slender jade-like hands gently held onto Chu Hen's right hand that was dripping with blood. Then, she took out an exquisite jade bottle. She removed the stopper and poured some light green powder onto the other's wound. Shilan's movements were very light, and her gentle and beautiful eyes were suffused with shallow ripples. Chu Hen's heartstrings couldn't help but tremble slightly, and he couldn't help but clench his fist. "Does it hurt?" Shilan's beautiful eyes lifted slightly, and she looked at him. Chu Hen shook his head. "Mentor, were you waiting for me here?" Shilan didn't answer, which was considered as a tacit agreement. She originally wanted to leave without looking back, but the moment she stepped out of the capital, she realized that she had an undeniable bond with someone in this city. And she also knew that Chu Hen would definitely chase after her. Wei Qingfan's eyes were full of mockery. "I'll give you one last chance. Take off all your clothes, kneel on the ground, and crawl in front of me. Otherwise, not only will you not be able to stay in the capital, but your Yi family in Raging Rain City will also not have a good ending." Yi Yu was a little flustered, her face full of anxiety. However, the more she was like this, the happier Wei Qingfan laughed. At this moment, in his eyes, Yi Yu was nothing more than a plaything. He stepped forward and pressed down on her shoulder, his face full of malevolence. "Hee, I should have been more straightforward. What right do you, bitch, have to act like a tsundere in front of me? Do you think you're worthy of giving me face? Who do you think you are?" After saying that, Wei Qingfan was about to tear off her clothes. Yi Yu turned pale with fright, pushed him away and scolded coldly, "Wei Qingfan, you trash! You dare to scold me?" Wei Qingfan's face was livid. So what if I scold you?" Yi Yu was also furious, pointing at him and scolding. "Didn't you ask me if I regret it? That's right, I regret it. To tell you the truth, I've already looked for Chu Hen, and he's already forgiven me. He said that if you dare to touch me, he'll make you wish you were dead." Every sentence was heavy, and every word was heart-wrenching. Wei Qingfan was dumbfounded by Yi Yu's scolding. "Tch, you're begging him again?" "That's right, I'm here to tell you not to pester me in the future, or else Chu Hen will not let you off." After saying that, Yi Yu directly rushed out of the door, hurriedly escaping from this place. "Bitch, stop right there." Hearing Wei Qingfan's furious voice behind her, Yi Yu was both angry, sorrowful, and ashamed. She really did not expect that there would be a day when she would have to use Chu Hen's name to scare Wei Qingfan away. All this was retribution. Wei Qingfan failed to catch up with Yi Yu, and was so angry that he kept smashing things in the room. Everything that could be smashed was smashed into pieces. However, Chu Hen, who left in the morning, did not return until the evening. The bustling night street was especially prosperous, with people coming and going, and bright lights. Shi Lan's departure made Chu Hen feel a sense of emptiness in his heart. However, since he knew where she had gone, it meant that he could go to her at any time in the future, which was also a kind of comfort. Just at this moment, a familiar and delicate figure suddenly appeared in Chu Hen's line of sight. Xiao Yao. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows, and saw that on the street dozens of meters ahead, Yi Yao was constantly looking around and asking questions in the crowd, as if she was looking for someone. Chu Hen was just about to go over to find her, but Yi Yao hurriedly left in the direction pointed by a passerby. What is this girl looking for? Chu Hen's face revealed a confused expression. Looking at her appearance, she seemed to be quite anxious. After a little hesitation, Chu Hen followed behind Yi Yao. About a moment or so, Chu Hen followed Yi Yao to an imposing manor. The gate of the manor was half open, and the bright light inside could be vaguely seen. This should be the place where Wei Qingfan, that bastard, lives. I wonder if my sister will be here? Yi Yao paced back and forth at the gate, biting her small lips with her silver teeth, and her cute little face was full of hesitation. After a moment of hesitation, a trace of determination flashed in Yi Yao's eyes. Then, he stepped into the manor. When seeing Yi Yao enter the manor, Chu Hen's eyes narrowed slightly, and there was some deep meaning surging between his eyebrows. It seemed that Yi Yu was missing, and Yi Yao was worried about her, so she ran out to look for her at night. Just as Chu Hen was about to sneak in quietly, he saw a slightly hurried figure coming from the outside. His ribs were completely shattered, and his internal organs were trembling. He looked at Yi Yao in front of him with a face full of terror. What was going on? Looking at the pair of strange eyes that resembled a yin and yang diagram, it was as if he was looking at the arrival of death. Little Yao. Chu Hen, who had followed closely behind, rushed over as fast as he could. Big brother Chu Hen? Yi Yao, who was also in a state of extreme panic, hurriedly ran towards Chu Hen. However, when Chu Hen saw Yi Yao's strange eyes, his heart could not help but tremble violently. This kind of feeling could instantly cause an indescribable fear to arise in people. Little Yao, you? Immediately after, Chu Hen only felt a slight warmth in his eyes, and a strange purple light surged in the depths of his eyes. The power of the demon eyes had actually activated on its own. The space trembled slightly, and a formless and powerful force was released from Chu Hen's eyes. The chaotic aura that Yi Yao emitted was subsequently suppressed, and like a receding tide, it quickly withdrew. The black light and white light in Yi Yao's eyes dissipated, and the yin and yang diagram that resembled a yin and yang diagram returned to its original clarity. However, Yi Yao did not seem to know what was happening to her at this moment. She rushed in front of Chu Hen, directly threw herself into his arms, and hugged him tightly before bursting into tears. Big brother Chu Hen, looking at Yi Yao, who had never felt so wronged before, an indescribable flame also rose in Chu Hen's heart. His ice-cold eyes swept towards Wei Qingfan like a sharp sword. Boundless murderous intent soared up. Chapter 336. You bastard, I'll take your life. Chu Hen flew into a rage when he saw Yi Yao being so wronged in his arms, and intense killing intent erupted from his icy cold eyes. Wei Qingfan was even more terrified as he lay on the ground and struggled incessantly. Big brother Chu Hen, don't, however, just as Chu Hen was about to flare up, Yi Yao hugged him tightly and cried out, Big brother Chu Hen, don't care about him, let's go. Truthfully speaking, Yi Yao was the person who wanted to kill Wei Qingfan the most. However, she also knew very well that once Wei Qingfan died, the Wei family would definitely not let the matter rest. She didn't want to bring trouble that would be difficult to resolve for Chu Hen. Chu Hen frowned. Even at a time like this, Yi Yao was still thinking for his sake, and it truly made Chu Hen feel touched and ashamed. If he hadn't tangled with Wei Han outside and come in earlier, Wei Han wouldn't have had to suffer so much. Big brother Chu Hen, I don't want to stay here. Let's go, alright? Yi Yao cried like a pear blossom in the rain, and it made one's heart ache. Chu Hen's eyes narrowed slightly, and he glanced coldly at Wei Qingfan, who was lying on the ground, and said, "Humph, trash. If you dare to take another step towards Little Yao, I, Chu Hen, swear that I won't be a man if I don't kill you." With that, Chu Hen supported Yi Yao's shoulder and left. Wei Qingfan's heart still trembled incessantly as he watched the two of them disappear into the night. Even he himself hadn't expected that he would actually fear Chu Hen to such an extent. In front of Chu Hen, Wei Qingfan didn't even dare to breathe randomly. Cough, cough. Wei Qingfan coughed out an endless stream of blood as he crawled on the ground with difficulty and called out weakly, Wei Han, swish! A sharp wind-breaking force came, and a cold and solemn young figure appeared in the courtyard. The dust on the ground flew into the air. This person's entire body exuded a chilling aura. What was surprising was that his left hand was empty, and a section of his sleeve was gently swaying. Cousin, cousin. Wei Qingfan's eyes lit up and she quickly shouted, Cousin, save me. Cousin. The newcomer was none other than the #1 student of the Imperial Martial Academy, the son of the southern prince, Huang Fuliang. Huang Fuliang's birth mother was the younger sister of the Wei clan's patriarch and also Wei Qingfan's aunt. The two clans were related. It could be said that the Wei clan was able to gain a foothold in the imperial city because of the southern prince's residence. Compared to the high-spirited Huang Fuliang before, the aura that Huang Fuliang emitted now was unusually cold. The setback he suffered in the Heaven List tournament had a significant impact on him. Huang Fuliang slowly walked towards Wei Qingfan with indifference in his eyes. Do you want to kill Chu Hen? Wei Qingfan was stunned. What did he mean? Right now, Chu Hen was like the sun in the sky. Even the Inscription Masters Guild wanted to rope him in. How could they kill him? Even so, Wei Qingfan nodded without hesitation. Yes, cousin, do you have a way? He, of course. A cold smile appeared on Huang Fuliang's face. However, cousin, I need you to suffer a little and pay a price. Are you willing? Of course I'm willing. As long as I can kill that damned bastard, I don't mind suffering a little. Very well, after I kill Chu Hen, I will definitely tell you. As soon as he finished speaking, a cold light shot out from Huang Fuliang's eyes. The fingertips of his right hand condensed, and with a whoosh, a piercingly cold silver beam of light burst out. Hiss, warm blood splattered as the silver beam of light directly pierced through Wei Qingfan's throat. Fresh blood flowed out and instantly dyed a large area of the ground red. Wei Qingfan struggled and twitched on the ground. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he stared at Huang Fuliang's face. Never could he have imagined that the price Zhang Xian had to pay would be his life. Wei Qingfan's eyes lost their light as his life was quickly drained away. Although they were cousins, Huang Fuliang didn't hesitate when he attacked. A ruthless smile slowly appeared on his face. Come out! Along with Huang Fuliang's indifferent voice, a trembling figure walked out from the courtyard in fear. Young Master Huang Fuliang. Wei Han's face was pale and he didn't dare to look at Huang Fuliang. In the past, Wei Han thought that there weren't many people in the imperial city who could compare to Wei Qingfan. However, compared to Huang Fuliang, he paled in comparison. Did you see it? Huang Fuliang smiled with interest. Yes. Wei Han swallowed his saliva and said respectfully, I saw Chu Hen break into the manor and kill my young master. Ha 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 ha. Huang Fuliang laughed crazily. He lightly patted Wei Han's shoulder and said, After this matter is over, you will follow me. I promise that by Wei Qingfan's side, you will be more valuable. Thank you, young Master Huang Fuliang. Do you know what to do next? Yes. Then I'll leave it to you. Then, Huang Fuliang flicked his sleeves and left. Wei Han's trembling hands clenched into fists. He looked at Wei Qingfan, who died on the ground, and let out a long sigh. His eyes revealed a cold light. That night, the entire city was in an uproar. The next day, the entire city was in an uproar. Wei Qingfan's death caused a huge uproar in the capital, which was already not peaceful to begin with. Did you hear? Wei Qingfan was killed. What's going on? Who's so daring? It's Chu Hen. Oh my God! It can't be? The evidence is conclusive. Wei Qingfan's followers saw it with his own eyes. In less than half a day's time, the news of Wei Qingfan being killed by Chu Hen had caused an intense uproar that could topple mountains and overturn seas within the capital. However, at this moment, Chu Hen himself was unaware of this matter. At the lake in the center of the city, the first rays of the morning sun gradually dispersed the white mist. On a stone bench by the river, Yi Yao, who was wearing Chu Hen's clothes, fell asleep in Chu Hen's arms. On her delicate and pure face, there were dried tear stains. However, from her even breathing, it could be seen that Yi Yao was still very calm. Chu Hen did not close his eyes for the entire night. At this moment, his mind was filled with the scene he had seen the night before. How could such an unimaginable change happen to Yi Yao's body? That pair of eyes that resembled a Tai Chi yin-yang diagram was actually able to activate his demon eyes on their own. This was really puzzling, come to think of it. Even the limit of Yi Yu's bloodline was only the extreme yin battle body. The power that Yi Yao had erupted with last night was absolutely terrifying. Even Wei Qingfan, who was stronger than her, could not withstand it. What exactly was going on? Could it be a bloodline mutation? Oh, just as Chu Hen was pondering this, Yi Yao woke up from her sleep. Chu Hen withdrew his thoughts, his gentle gaze containing some pity as he looked at her. Are you awake? Yi Yao opened her slightly drowsy eyes and nodded in satisfaction. It was as if she would only feel at ease when she was by Chu Hen's side. Even her sister Yi Yu had never felt such a sense of security. Let last night's matter be in the past. Don't think too much about it. Chu Hen rubbed her head. Big brother Chu Hen, I don't want to go back to Tifeng province. Yi Yao's clear eyes were filled with hesitation. Every time she thought of last night's matter, she would feel a lingering fear in her heart. Then I'll bring you to Tensei Prefecture. With Chu Hen's current influence, bringing Yi Yao to Tensei Prefecture was practically a matter of a sentence. Yi Yao gritted her teeth, as if she had some hidden troubles that she could not speak of. Are you worried about your sister? Chu Hen saw through her thoughts with a glance. And Yi Yao was a little guilty. If I go to Heavenly Star and my sister stays in Defeng, I'm afraid if she's willing, then you guys can come together. Really? Yi Yao's eyes lit up. Chu Hen smiled and nodded in affirmation. Of course, even though he agreed to let Yi Yu go to Tensei Prefecture with him, it did not mean that he had forgiven her. It could be said that the crack between him and Yi Yu could no longer be mended. The reason why Chu Hen did this was because of Yi Yao. Moreover, Shilan had already left. In the following period of time, Chu Hen did not plan to continue staying in the academy. Instead, he wanted to go out and gain experience. Therefore, even if Yi Yu went to Heavenly Star, the two of them would basically not meet. Thank you, big brother Chu Hen. Then, Yi Yao gently hugged Chu Hen. At the same time, she felt that it was a pity that Yi Yu had made such a wrong decision back in Flaming Rain City. Xiao Yao. Suddenly, a woman's voice that was filled with anxiety sounded from afar. Is it big sister? Yi Yao was elated. She quickly stood up and saw Yi Yu looking around anxiously on the other side of the lake in the center of the city. Big sister, I'm over here. Yi Yao quickly waved her little hand and shouted. Hearing the response, Yi Yu's expression relaxed. She turned around and looked over, then ran over. Xiao Yao, where have you been? I've been looking for you all night. Yi Yu's face was full of worry. She hurried back to Tifeng province last night, only to find that Yi Yao was missing. After asking, she found out that Yi Yao had gone out to look for her in the afternoon. Then, Yi Yu hurried out to look for her. Before Yi Yao could speak, Yi Yu saw the young figure standing behind her. At the same time, she realized that Yi Yao was still wearing Chu Hen's clothes. You guys? Big sister, you don't know. Big brother Chu Hen saved me last night. Saved you? Yi Yu's expression changed slightly. You went to Wei Qingfan's place last night? Looking at the other party's strange and excited expression, Yi Yao was confused. Big sister, I went to look for you. Chapter 337. Come with me immediately. Don't stay here. Yi Yu grabbed Yi Yao's wrist and tried to take her away by force. Yi Yao was shocked and suspicious. She asked in confusion, Sister, what are you doing? I don't want to go back to Tifeng province. I've already told Big Brother Chu Hen that I want to go to Tensei Prefecture. The two of us will go together. We won't have to be afraid of Wei Qingfan's pestering anymore. Not afraid of Wei Qingfan's pestering anymore? Yi Yu was stunned. She frowned slightly and looked at her in surprise. You don't know? Know what? Yi Yao was confused. Sister, what's wrong with you? Wei Qingfan is dead. What? Yi Yao and Chu Hen, who was standing behind her, were shocked when they heard this. Wei Qingfan was dead? How did he die? He was still alive and well last night. Judging from the expressions on Chu Hen and Yi Yao's faces, Yi Yu immediately understood the reason. She looked at Chu Hen with a complicated gaze. She was about to say something when a thunderous roar suddenly exploded in the air. Chu Hen, you little thief, return my son's life. Boom! An incomparably furious aura swept over like a mountain. The water in the center of the lake not far away surged with huge wave. Chu Hen's expression changed. He hurriedly activated his true inner force to defend himself. Then, dozens of figures with powerful auras immediately surrounded them. All of them were aggressive and murderous. The person in the lead was a middle-aged man in his 40s. He had a mustache above his lips, and his appearance was quite similar to Wei Qingfan's. This person was none other than the Wei family's patriarch, Wei Gang. Chu Hen, you little thief, I'll surely tear you into 1,000 pieces to vent the hatred in my heart. Wei Gang glared fiercely at Chu Hen, and his eyes almost spat out flames. Chu Hen furrowed his brows and shouted in a deep voice, I'll have to trouble you to clarify the matter before you settle accounts with me. I didn't kill your useless son. How dare you? Could it be that you dare to do it but do not dare to admit it? Humph, it's something I did, so of course I'll admit it. If I didn't do it, I, Chu Hen, would never admit it. Your useless son is dead, and instead of going to catch the real murderer, you came here early in the morning to make trouble for me. What a joke. Don't quibble. Capture this little animal for me. Wei Gang shouted angrily. Yes, Patriarch. As soon as he finished speaking, the numerous experts that came with Wei Gang were enraged, and all of them emanated ghastly killing intent as they charged towards Chu Hen. However, it was also at this moment that another powerful and terrifying aura suddenly came crashing down. I'd like to see who dares to touch a student of my Tensei Prefecture. Principal Jiang? Chu Hen's heart lit up. Then, a few dozen figures rushed over, and the person in the lead was the administrator of Heavenly Star, Principal Jiang. Among them were Song Chunglai, Shadowless, and many other mentors. Even Mu Feng, Li Hui, Zhou Lu, and He Qingyuan. Senior Brother Chu Hen, we're here. The arrival of the people from Tensei Prefecture immediately suppressed House Wei's imposing manner. Wei Gang's expression was extremely gloomy, and he glared at Principal Jiang angrily. Jiang Chong, you came at the right time. Your academy's student killed my son. If you don't give me an explanation today, I, Wei Gang, will not let this matter rest. Principal Jiang brought a group of people to the front, and looked at Chu Hen. Chu Hen, did you kill him? No. Chu Hen said without hesitation. Little thief, you still dare to deny it? Wei Gang shouted. He didn't deny it. I can prove that Big Brother Chu Hen didn't kill him. Yi Yao quickly broke free from Yi Yu's grasp and rushed to the front. He didn't even touch Wei Qingfan. After the two of us left, Big Brother Chu Hen was with me the whole time. He definitely didn't kill him. Yi Yao's eyes were filled with tears, and she was so anxious that she was about to cry. The reason why she didn't let Chu Hen kill Wei Qingfan last night was because she was afraid of a situation like this. She didn't expect that it would still happen, and it happened so mysteriously. "Humph, since you were there, I'm sure that the two of you are accomplices," Wei Gang shouted. Seeing that Wei Gang had started to falsely accuse Yi Yao, Chu Hen couldn't stand it anymore. He took a step forward and said in a powerful voice, "I say, Wei family head, your ability to speak without thinking is really not bad. Last night, that son of yours was about to do bad things to a good girl, but in the end, he was sent flying. It's not surprising that this kind of person was assassinated by his enemies. Bastard, you little animal, not only did you harm my son's life, you even dare to falsely accuse him. Humph, you know Wei Qingfan's character very well. The number of people he offended in the imperial city, if not 1,000, there are at least 800. Out of so many people, you just had to say that I killed him. What's the reason for that?" Wei Gang was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. His eyes narrowed, and a tyrannical aura surged towards Chu Hen. "Little animal, I don't want to listen to your nonsense. Die." Buzz, buzz, a dazzling golden light like the sun erupted from Wei Gang's palm. The powerful light rapidly rotated, and instantly formed an incomparably solid death wheel of Sunday compared to the move Wei Qingfan had displayed earlier. It was clearly not on the same level. This Wei Gang had an aura that seemed to want to kill Chu Hen on the spot. "Humph!" Principal Jiang reacted quickly. With a cold snort, he directly flashed forward and extended a single palm. A steady palm energy firmly imprinted itself on Wei Gang's palm. Bang! An oppressive shockwave exploded in the air as chaotic true Yuan Qi waves spread out in all directions. As the surging waves of hidden energy swept downwards, Wei Gang was directly jolted back a few steps. "Jiang Chong!" Wei Gang's face was ashen, and a deep roar came from his throat. "Wei Gang, before we understand the situation, if you want to touch Chu Hen, I, Jiang Chong, will be the first to object." Now, the Tensei Prefecture had risen again with the help of Chu Hen, and had reclaimed the title of the first academy. For this academy there was no one who did not know how important Chu Hen was. Just based on the fact that Principal Jiang personally took action, it was enough to prove that he would not allow Wei Gang and the others to do anything to Chu Hen. Even though the Wei clan was an upper-class clan in the imperial city, in front of the solid foundation of the Tensei Prefecture, they were still relatively weaker. Especially Principal Jiang Chong. Even in the vast sacred Star Empire, he was definitely ranked among the top experts. The powerful strength of the void-piercing realm suppressed everyone present. "Jiang Chong, don't force me!" Wei Gang's fists were clenched so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. "I said, before we understand the situation completely, no one should even think about touching Chu Hen. You have witnesses on your side, and we also have witnesses on our side. When you have absolute evidence, it's not too late to come to the Tensei Prefecture to demand for him." Principal Jiang's attitude was especially firm. He flicked his sleeves and said, "Return to the academy." With that, a few Tensei Prefecture tutors came up and surrounded Chu Hen in the center, to prevent Wei Gang and the others from suddenly making things difficult. "Big brother Chu Hen." Yi Yao's eyebrows were tightly knitted together, her big eyes filled with worry. "It's fine." Chu Hen smiled and said, "For the time being, stay in Tifeng province obediently and don't come out. It's hard to guarantee that no one will have ill intentions." Originally, the best plan was for Chu Hen to bring Yi Yao back to the Tensei Prefecture. However, now that Wei Qingfan was dead, Yi Yao was the only person who could prove Chu Hen's innocence. To avoid arousing suspicion, it was better for her to stay in the third party's territory. No matter what, Tifeng province was one of the 6 major academies. Yi Yao would be very safe there. Yi Yao bit her lips and pretended to be strong as she nodded. I understand, Big Brother Chu Hen. Immediately, Chu Hen followed Principal Jiang and the others back to the academy. Yi Yao was also brought away by Yi Yu in a hurry. As for Wei Gang, he was so angry that his entire body was trembling. His eyes were red with anger as he stared at the fading silhouettes of the Heavenly Star Marshall House. He viciously said, "Jiang Chong, you won't be able to protect this little bastard, humph." In the following day, the incident of Wei Qingfan's murder continued to spread. The entire imperial capital was in an uproar. If the one who had died was a genius of an ordinary clan, it would not have caused such a stir. But one could not forget that behind the Wei clan was the southern prince's estate. The southern prince, Huangfu Pingyun, was the younger brother of the previous emperor and the uncle of the current son of heaven. It could be said that the Wei clan was half a relative of the imperial family. The murder of a relative of the imperial family was no small matter. Very quickly, Wei Gang personally paid a visit to the southern prince's estate, desiring to borrow its strength to seek justice for Wei Qingfan. At the same time, the Heavenly Star Marshall House was not idle either. Principal Jiang immediately sent someone to inform Her Royal Highness, Princess Huangfu Qing. After such a big incident, the only one who could help Chu Hen settle it was probably Huangfu Qing. On the same evening, the Divine Empress's palace. Divine Empress, the Southern Prince requests an audience. Enter. Yes, Divine Empress. Accompanied by hurried footsteps, the Southern Prince, Huangfu Pingyun, with his brow tightly furrowed, gloomily entered the palace. He clasped his hands and bowed, saying, "This subject, Huangfu Pingyun, pays respects to the Divine Empress." Behind the bead curtain, the Divine Empress sat on a wide chair. The fiend duo stood on either side of the bead curtain, exuding a steady and awe-inspiring qi. For the Southern Prince to visit so late, for what matter? Reporting to the Divine Empress, this subject's little brother's nephew, Wei Qingfan, was killed for no reason by that Chu Hen. Right now, the entire Wei clan is crying in sorrow, making one feel even more sorrowful. As for that Jiang Chong of Tensei Prefecture, he wholeheartedly protects that little thief Chu Hen and refuses to hand over the murderer. This subject's little brother earnestly requests the Divine Empress to make a decision and return justice to the Wei clan. The Southern Prince was filled with righteous indignation, his voice resounding. However, the Divine Empress behind the bead curtain was especially calm. She indifferently said, "Southern Prince, before you entered the palace, did you see your son, Huang Fuliang?" The Southern Prince revealed a confused expression. How did she bring up Huang Fuliang? Liang has just recovered from his heavy injuries and is still recuperating. Does the Divine Empress need him for something? I'll call him over. There's no need, the Divine Empress indifferently replied. This widow already knows of this matter. You can return first. But, Chapter 338. One day later, the Heavenly Star Marshall House temporarily stopped the ongoing recruitment process. The whole city was in turmoil. The whole capital was paying close attention to what would happen next. In the morning, countless people had already gathered in and around Tensei Prefecture. Long Qingyang, Long Xuanshuang, Yu Qinyu, Luo Mingshang, and many of Chu Hen's relatives and friends had basically rushed to Tensei Prefecture as soon as possible. Even Yu De, Wenhong, Zhu Tong, and other famous senior inscriptionists from the Inscriptionist Guild had arrived. Of course, House Wei had also made some moves. Using his family's connections and the prestige of the Southern Prince's residence, Wei Gang had gathered many people and united to demand people from Tensei Prefecture. Hand over Chu Hen. Punish the murderer severely. Hand over Chu Hen, the thief. On the front square of Tensei Prefecture, the people gathered here were divided into two groups. One group was led by Principal Jiang, who wanted to protect Chu Hen. The other group was led by Wei Gang, who wanted to force the other party to hand over Chu Hen. The two groups had been in a stalemate since this morning, and there were signs that an even more intense conflict could break out at any time. Jiang Chong, if you don't hand over Chu Hen, we won't leave. Humph, Wei Gang, what's the point of making a scene like this? If you have the time, you might as well go find the murderer. Why waste time here? There's no point in talking. The murderer is Chu Hen. The evidence is irrefutable. You can't deny it. Just as the two sides were locked in a stalemate, a group of Imperial Guards clad in armor rushed over, accompanied by a loud commotion. The leader of the Imperial Guards was a graceful and elegant young woman. Her elegant and refined face carried the natural dignity of royalty. She was the only female regent and princess in the history of the Sacred Star Dynasty, Huang Fuqing. Greetings, Your Highness. The crowd saluted in unison. Huang Fuqing's appearance immediately suppressed the chaotic atmosphere. Surrounded by Long Qingyang, Long Xuanxuang, Yu Qinyu, Mu Feng, and Li Hui, Chu Hen walked out from the back of the Tensei Prefecture crowd. As soon as they saw Chu Hen, everyone on Wei Gang's side immediately became extremely excited. Your Highness, please uphold justice for Wei Qingfan. Punish that little thief Chu Hen severely. Huang Fuqing's eyebrows slightly furrowed. She looked at the people around her with a complicated expression. Then, she walked in front of Chu Hen and opened her red lip. What happened? What else could it be? I've been framed. Chu Hen helplessly smiled bitterly and said, You didn't kill them? If I really killed them, do you think I would leave anyone alive? If it was really Chu Hen who did it, not to mention leaving behind other witnesses, even Wei Qingfan's corpse would probably be destroyed as well. However, now that the whole city was in an uproar, Chu Hen truly regretted killing Wei Qingfan and his lackeys. If he had known that things would escalate to this extent, he would have killed Wei Qingfan and his lackeys last night and destroyed the evidence. Your Highness, please don't listen to his words, Wei Gang said in a low voice. Damn, you guys keep saying that Chu Hen is the murderer, but why don't you show us the evidence? You're just listening to one side of the story, Mu Feng scolded. That's right, you have witnesses, and so do we. I strongly request Your Highness to find out the truth and prove Chu Hen's innocence. Seeing that the two sides were arguing again, Huang Fuqing's expression turned cold, and a trace of dignity appeared in her eyes. Everyone, please listen to me. Let's not make a fuss in Tensei Prefecture. Please give me some time, and I will find out the truth. Before that, Chu Hen can only stay in the academy and is not allowed to leave. If it really was him, then this empress will definitely punish him severely. If someone deliberately framed him, I will also prove his innocence. Everyone could hear that Huang Fuqing was siding with Chu Hen. The Wei clan, who were still angry, naturally wouldn't agree. But with Huang Fuqing's status, not many people dared to disobey him. Just as the Heavenly Star Martial House heaved a sigh of relief, another group of Imperial Guards arrived at the scene. Zhao Bei. Huang Fuqing looked at the burly middle-aged man who was leading the group with a bit of surprise. He was the commander of the Imperial Guards, Zhao Bei. Your Highness. Zhao Bei first cupped his hands and bowed. I'm here on His Majesty's order. What did His Majesty say? Huang Fuqing asked in a low voice. Zhao Bei's eyes flashed with cold light. He took out an imperial edict and held it high in his hand. His Majesty has decreed that Chu Hen of Tensei Prefecture is arrogant, contemptuous of the law, and openly committed crimes under the Emperor's feet. The evidence is conclusive. Put him in the death cell and await punishment. Put him in the death cell and await punishment. Wow. The crowd was in an uproar. Long Qingyang, Long Xuanxuang, Yu Qinyu, and Mu Feng, who had just sighed in relief, immediately paled. On Wei Gang's side, everyone was extremely excited. Your Majesty is wise. Thank you, Your Majesty, for helping House Wei. Zhao Bei's voice was impassioned as he shouted, Take Chu Hen down. Yes, Your Majesty. Stop. Huang Fuqing hurriedly stopped them. There are too many suspicious points in this case. We need to reinvestigate. Putting aside the fact that Chu Hen is not the murderer, even if he did, he won the heaven proclamation for our dynasty. His merits outweigh his faults, and he should not be punished. However, Huang Fuqing's attitude was unyielding. Zhao Bei did not show much respect on his face. He smiled coldly and said, "Your Highness, as the Prince Regent, you are too immature to say such things. Chu Hen winning the heaven proclamation is indeed a great achievement for our dynasty. But it is also because of this that he is so arrogant and domineering. These are two separate matters. This general is only following orders. I hope that your Highness will not stop me. Otherwise, this general will have to offend you." The atmosphere in the arena immediately became unusually tense. Everyone present knew that although Zhao Bei was the commander of the Imperial Guard, in reality, he was a trusted aide of the Divine Empress. Otherwise, he would not dare to offend Huang Fuqing even if he was 100 times more courageous. Huang Fuqing also knew that although the other side had come with the Emperor's edict, the one who had actually given the edict was definitely not Huang Fu Hao. Huang Fuqing slightly turned her body and her beautiful eyes met Chu Hen's gaze. Her delicate cherry lips slightly moved, and with an extremely weak voice, she spat out a single word. "Go! Go!" Huang Fuqing knew very well that once Chu Hen was sent to the death prison, what awaited him would be torture, as well as death. Only now did she understand that the Divine Queen had always been looking for an opportunity to get rid of Chu Hen. And now this was the opportunity. And once the Divine Queen interfered in this matter, Chu Hen would have no chance of turning things around. In other words, no matter what the truth was, Chu Hen was definitely going to be the scapegoat for this. Seeing the seriousness in Huang Fuqing's eyes, Chu Hen couldn't help but frown. The situation had changed far beyond his expectations. It was as if there was a huge hand behind the scenes constantly adding fuel to the fire. "Take Chu Hen away," Zhao Bei ordered once more. Before he finished speaking, a fierce light suddenly exploded from Chu Hen's eyes. Purple shadow wings instantly unfurled from his back, and with a single movement, he transformed into a streak of light that shot into the sky. "Trying to run? Do you think it's so easy?" Zhao Bei roared angrily. With a wave of his hand, he fiercely stomped his foot and leapt into the air. At the same time, Wei Gang and the other Wei clan experts also began to encircle and intercept him. "Little bastard, where do you think you're going?" Mu Feng, Long Qingyang, Long Xuanshuang, Yu Qinyu and the rest were at a loss. "Damn it!" Long Qingyang cursed, his eyes almost spitting fire. His gaze turned cold as he angrily shouted, "Whoever dares to touch Chu Hen will have to ask me, Long Qingyang, if I, Long Qingyang, agree. Damn it, I, Mu Feng, am going all out today," cursed Mu Feng. On the other side, Luo Mingshang's beautiful eyes flashed with a cold light as an extremely restless energy gradually spread from her body. However, Huang Fuqing's palm clenched at this moment as she held her sword horizontally in front of Long Qingyang and the rest. "All of you better behave yourselves. Anyone who dares to attack without permission will be severely punished. Your Highness, you?" Humph! Huang Fuqing paid no attention to them. Soon after, she coldly shouted in a lovely voice, "Chu Hen, even I have been deceived by you. Watch my sword, BZZ." With that, Huang Fuqing's wrist moved and she raised her sword towards the sky. Along with an incomparably frightening and powerful might, a resplendent and astonishing sword image swept up a vast and mighty aura as it traversed the sky and directly blocked in front of Chu Hen. Huang Fuqing's sword seemed to be attacking Chu Hen, but it was actually helping him. As the sword swept across the sky, Zhao Bei, Wei Gang and the rest all paused for a moment. "Your Highness!" Zhao Bei's expression darkened. "Don't worry, Commander Zhao, I will not forgive that bastard Chu Hen for deceiving me." In the next instant, Huang Fuqing slashed out with his sword. A swift and fierce sword light flew out. It was like a silhouette that could trace back 1,000 years, and accurately struck Chu Hen's body. However, this sword seemed to be extremely lethal. However, not only was Chu Hen completely unharmed, he was even pushed away by an extremely gentle force. Chu Hen glanced at Huang Fu-Qing gratefully before disappearing into the sky above Tensei Prefecture at the fastest speed possible. Huang Fu-Qing pretended to be angry and said, "I'm so angry that I let him escape again." However, it was Zhao Bei and Wei Gang who were angered to the point that their faces turned ashen. Although they knew that Huang Fu-Qing was helping Chu Hen, they could only suppress their anger. Chase. The menacing group swiftly surged out of Tensei Prefecture like a tide and chased after Chu Hen. Principal Zhang's eyes narrowed as he solemnly said, "Teachers and students of Tensei Prefecture, listen up. Do your best to help Commander Zhao Bei chase Chu Hen." Everyone understood what Principal Jiang was referring to, and they immediately understood what he was referring to. "Understood. We will definitely do our best to help."